So, are you considering to start a YouTube channel? Well, the Sony ZV-1 might be the camera for you. This is Roshan in Finland, and today we're gonna be checking it out. Well, for the impatient ones, I don't know what channel is about, but I'm gonna assume that you might want to do some vlogging, meaning walking outdoors while talking to the camera, and then have some studio-like setups like this one. And for that, you will want a camera that has great autofocus, great stabilization, a flip-out screen, and decent audio options, meaning at the very least a input jack for a microphone. Well, the Sony ZV-1 does all of this and more. Before getting into some more details, a couple of disclaimers. Firstly, that this video is not sponsored by anyone. The Sony ZV-1 is mine, paid with my own money, and I got a really good deal second-hand. I would recommend to look for those. It's definitely not the only camera that I'm using, but I'm liking it very much, and that's why I would recommend it for somebody starting a YouTube channel. There are other options, for sure. Better, maybe. As complete as this one, I don't know. Let's go into some more detail. So one possible use case for your channel is vlogging, which is what I'm doing right now. So basically, walking around and talking to the camera. In my case, in the middle of the forest, so I practice extreme Finnish social distancing. And just in case some of you are already typing furiously that the ZV-1 is not the best one, and that an interchangeable mirrorless camera will be better for this, or that if you're just gonna be vlogging a phone is enough, you might be right. I haven't said that it is the best. If I said that it is the best, maybe I will say it in the title, just to get you clicking and watching the video, but I can't claim ever that something is the best. All that said, the ZV-1 is a great option, and now we're checking why. But I digress. So what makes a camera suitable for vlogging or this kind of talking heads? Well, there's several things. First of all, audio, which is very important. So you want at least to have a microphone input, like the ZV-1 does have, and right now you're hearing me through the Rode Video Micro with a dead cat mounted on top of the camera. Second, you want a flippy screen so that you can frame, you can see that you are recording, you can see some settings, and time to time check that the focus is where it's supposed to be. Because even with an amazing autofocus from Sony, like the ZV-1, if the situation is extreme enough that you're really backlit, it could lose you. So having a flippy screen or flip up, it's really beneficial for vlogging. And the next step is what I was mentioning right now, reliable and dependable autofocus. Again, nothing is perfect, but it's difficult to go to a better system than Sony for reliable autofocus. The next feature that I think, in my opinion, and I'm not a vlogger, it's really useful for vlogging, is that the system or the camera is light enough. Because doing this, come on, it's annoying and it's tiring. All respect for all of those people that have been vlogging with like Canon 1DX or any of those behemoths and beasts. Even the Panasonic G9 or some of the other smaller mirrorless cameras are pretty heavy if you're going to be holding them like this for a while. So the weight of the ZV-1 makes it, in my opinion, an excellent vlogging option. And the last characteristic, and maybe the ZV-1 doesn't fulfill it so well, is having a wide angle. Now I'm holding the camera with the elbow almost at my body. I have a Manfrotto Pixie under the camera itself, and this is okay, but it gets tiring, and as you can see, my head is pretty big in the frame. I'm as wide as it goes with this camera, with the active stabilization on, which crops a little bit. That gives you a field of view equivalent to 30mm, and that's a bit too tight for vlogging, but not impossible. So was this perfect? No, very usable, for sure. And now that I mentioned the stabilization, that's another very important thing for vlogging. If you're going to be walking around, especially right now in my case, which I'm in the middle of this forest path, which is pretty bumpy, to be honest, you're gonna need good stabilization. And as said, the one from the ZV-1 is good, is very good. The optical is decent, and when you engage the when you engage the active stabilization is even better. The problem, it crowds a little bit. So let's take a look. Now I have the elbow tucked like this, tucked to my body, so the camera is, I don't know, at some distance from me. This is the most comfortable position, but now I'm with the active stabilization on, and let's check what happens if I elongate my arm. And I have really long arms, so there you go. This is as wide as I could get it with this small tripod and the active stabilization on. let's take a look at what happens if the active stabilization is off, which, by the way, I need to stop recording to engage it. The exact same spot, the exactly equally extended arm, which now maybe the shakiness is visible, but this is the field of view with the full extended arm in my case, with the stabilization in the standard mode. And now you can see what happens if I start walking. It's fairly different from before, but still somewhat usable. And now if I tuck it in, so this is definitely more comfortable to carry, but now the stabilization again is what it is, even if the field of view might be a little bit more suitable to vlogging as it's a bit wider. But now let's go back inside and let's see how does this camera do in the indoor scenario. And now that we're here indoors with controlled lighting, with possibly external audio, no need for stabilization, the camera is on top of a tripod, so it doesn't matter if it's heavy. It seems that the needs are much less. So if the requirements are less, then we're starting to look at purely the image quality. And the question is the image quality of the Sony ZV-1 good enough? Well, no, it's not as good as a full-frame cinema camera with prime lenses, but what we're looking specifically in this video is in one camera that can do it all and that can do it easily. But what we're looking in this video is at one camera that can do it all and that it can do it well enough. So you do get very good looking, in my opinion, 4K video at 24, 25 and 30 frames per second, 25 in PAL, 24 and 30 in NTSC, and you're getting 420 8-bit internally and 422 8-bit externally if you would record to a Atomos Ninja 5, for instance. Then you get also proper picture profiles that allow you to do good color grading afterwards, so S-Log2, S-Log3 and HLG. And yes, I know that this is only an 8-bit camera, but those profiles are more than usable if you do it correctly. And you can check this video where I'm basically talking about how to color grade the S-Log2 and S-Log3 coming from the Sony ZV-1 in DaVinci Resolve. If you are not interested in the color grading, then I would recommend PP1, which I think it looks really, really good straight out of the camera. And if that one is not of your taste, well, please take a look at the rest of picture profiles and pick the one that works the best for you. And by the way, this whole video, including the parts outside and the parts indoors, is shot in 4K 25p, and I'm shooting in S-Log2. And I've been forgetting to talk about the autofocus, and that's a really good thing. It's because you can just forget about it. It works that well. That's something that I'm used to with the Sony ZV-400, even if it's an older camera. But man, the Sony cameras are really, really good. And I think that it's fantastic that you can just forget about the fact that there's that feature there. It will keep you in focus. Then how about the audio? Well, outside what I had is the Rode Video Micro on top of the camera plugged to the input jack. And here indoors, I also have the Rode Video Micro mounted on a boom pole. It's about 30 centimeters from my head and just plugged straight to the camera with an extension cord to the 3.5mm jack. So now you get an idea of the quality of the preamps and the sound that you can get with a very affordable microphone into this camera. I think that once again, it's more than good enough. So what doesn't it do that I would like it to do for this specific use case? Well, I would like shallower depth of field. This background is okay-ish, but I like it when it's a little bit more blurred. And to do that, you would need two things or a combination of both. A faster lens, meaning with a faster aperture, and a bigger sensor. But those two things are very difficult to achieve and keep a package as small and compact as this camera. So there you go. We could spend a full video talking about the competition to the ZV-1, either on the action camera side for the vlogging and running around purposes, or mirrorless for these kind of situations. But now I'm going to keep it short. So why to get the ZV-1 and not a mirrorless interchangeable cameras being a full frame APS-C or even a Micro Four Thirds that would give you a bigger sensor? Well, the small, tiny, actually pocketable package, and then how light this is. And remember that we're looking at one package to do it all well enough. Difficult to beat this one. And a good question would be, why to get the Sony ZV-1 for vlogging instead of an action camera? I'm thinking about the DJI Osmo Action, which I have some videos about, and I think it's an excellent option if you're just gonna do this. It has a wider field of view, it has better stabilization probably, it has decent audio since it has an audio input jack as well, and it has definitely more and more flexible slow motion capabilities. So what does the ZV-1 then have on top? So why get the ZV-1 instead of the action camera? Well, the lens and the sensor. with this beacon sensor you can have a semblance of tone, as you can see right now, some blurry background. Then the fact that you do have a zoom lens, it means that you can have more reach and have a little bit maybe different and more varied type of shots. And if we are making this video basically to work out whether the Sony ZV-1 can be the one camera to do it all, it will be much better suited to do B-roll in general, because it will offer you more flexibility. So I think that that's why to get this one instead of an action camera for vlogging, and if we're gonna do this also in the studio. But now let's go back inside. So now my question is, are you starting a YouTube channel? Do you have a ZV-1? Will you consider one after this video? So let me know down below, I'm really curious. And I'm not saying that this is the best camera for that particular purpose, but when we're looking at all-in-one package that can do many of these things, fulfill most of the requirements in a very decent way, and for a decent price if you find a good deal secondhand, I think that I would recommend it, given that you know the limitations. I hope you liked the video. If you did, please like and subscribe, and we're gonna see you soon for some more content.